We live in a time where we are not only flooded by information, but also with the sense of being constantly manipulated. One consequence of growing up in the age of the internet is that we have developed a sophisticated sense for smelling bullshit. While our parents have grown up with mass media as a reliable source of information, we have learned and even acquired the skill to create media ourselves. We have witnessed firsthand how we and others can influence the public without ever having seen a media agency from the inside. We know how easy it is to manipulate, which is probably the very reason why we are so wary of it. You could almost say we have been trained our whole life to smell the crap thrown our way. Yet it still reaches us. But do we really wonder, how effective is the best bullshit detector if you have to wade and steer through a sea of crap? The psychological protection system we've intuitively developed loses all its advantages when it constantly goes off. Just as a smoke detector is rendered useless when you decide to have a barbecue in your living room. And that's kind of what we do these days. We shrug our shoulders and catch some of the hot burning crap thrown our way, since bullshit is not all that bad. Some of it is actually pretty exciting. Most of it is called marketing. And whether it is about products, politics or personal, marketing these days extends way beyond an isolated corporate department on the 3rd floor or a weekly Zoom meeting from home. It has become part of modern Western society. Broadcast yourself is not only the official slogan of YouTube, it is the credo of the 21st century. But you probably know all that. So why am I telling you this? Well, what if I told you that public manipulation, marketing and media do not work how you think they do? What if identifying the origin of manipulation to protect yourself from it basically is meaningless? And what if the most important factor within the scheme of influence and competition for attention is neither you nor the communicator, but everyone else? In one of my latest videos, I've introduced you to the third person effect, and I've done a pretty terrible job explaining it, like none. So let's explore this a little bit further. What exactly is the third person effect? Summarized, it describes the belief that the media will have a bigger influence, a stronger influence over others than over oneself. Basically, that means if our favorite food company puts a new ad out, we might be quickly to judge others for getting ready to camp outside the store just to get their hands on the brand new product. But not us. We are cool, calm and collected, and we will only buy it if we really need it and if we really, really want it. All that marketing has no power over us whatsoever. Except that deep down, it kinda has. Even if it has the opposite effect. So how does that work exactly? One crucial term we need to introduce is self-enhancement. To protect our self-esteem and disassociate ourselves from others, we tend to naturally judge ourselves as superior, resulting in overconfidence. Obviously, we do not consider ourselves superior in every aspect and all the time, although common fields where it happens are social skills, driving abilities or leadership. So if you've ever asked yourself why apparently everyone seems to excel in those fields, well, they don't. But they think they do, and we'll get back to this since it is at the very core of what I'm trying to get to. Another part of the third person effect is social distance. The less relatable someone is, the stronger the potential third person effect, which, funny enough, originates from taking ourselves as the best, if not the only point of reference. If I cannot relate to someone or even maybe dislike this particular person, brand or government, we seem to anticipate very little influence over us, yet significant effect over others we ironically might relate to just as little. And the third factor in the trifecta of the third person effect is the undesirability of the message. The more undesirable a message, the stronger the third person effect seems to be. Meaning, if it's just marketing, we might say, yeah, other people will be swayed and buy useless crap, but so what? But if the message we react to revolves around more polarizing topics like violence, pornography or injustice, we may not only be convinced, but literally scared of the consequences this might have on others. At this point, I want to make clear that the third person effect does not need to have a particularly desired influence over us. If someone, for instance, puts out a ridiculous idea like, I don't know, that the government has engineered a pandemic, we might not only think but believe to our core that this is nonsense. Yet we still might fall victim to the third-person effect by overestimating how and how many people will believe in such conspiracies. And likewise, people who believe the other side will most probably overstate how and how many people will be manipulated by the government into ignoring what is apparently right in front of them, without either side realizing how they have been played themselves. So how in the world is it possible that we might not have any clue about this? The answer is the elephant in the brain. Not only an insightful book, but also a relevant term in this regard. As the authors Robin Hanson and Kevin Simler describe it, an important but unacknowledged feature of how our minds work, an introspective taboo. Like the elephant in the room, the elephant in the brain is not only something we do not speak about, it actually something we rarely ever think about. Or like they put it, we don't always know what our brains are up to, but we often pretend to know, and therein lies the trouble, which directly circles back to self-enhancement and overconfidence. Generally speaking, confidence is a good thing. Without it, we would be nothing but an indecisive mess that never gets anything done. But even more than that, confidence is desirable. We gravitate towards confident people with strong and clear-cut arguments as compared to the person always saying, well, actually, and you know, it depends. That's me, by the way. And our brains fucking hate that. Critical thinking and revising problems is hard cognitive work and costs energy. It is, metabolically speaking, in fact, the most expensive thing you can do besides moving your body. Confidence, on the other hand, is based in established patterns and best practices. Or so we believe. But the problem with confidence actually is that it is nothing but a feeling. As Daniel Kahneman in his best-selling book Thinking Fast and Slow writes, subjective confidence in a judgment is not a reasoned evaluation of the probability that this judgment is correct. Confidence is a feeling, which reflects the coherence of the information and the cognitive ease of processing it. The issue of confidence is that it is an internal state, and unlike the physical life we perceive and experience through our five senses, it is not forced to revision. When I burn my hand, I better make sure to not put it on the stove again. When I hit a wall, I better make sure to look where I walk, or at least to recognize a wall as an impenetrable object. But when I am wrong about something, I might actually rather construct a comforting story to protect my self-esteem and prevent my brain from spending valuable resources. Because who else is there to hold myself accountable but I? If I am wrong about something and I don't know it, so what? I may want to think about it, but since brains are not for thinking but for survival, energy conservation almost always seems to be the better deal. Intuitively, at least. When I said confidence is desirable, you may have nodded away. And you know that to be true because it is a norm. Society values confidence. Yet it is the very same norm that keeps us from breaking out of the cycle of self-deception and manipulation. Even though we know that humans are fallible and vulnerability should be considered a virtue, cultural norms, deeply ingrained in our identity and intertwined with our reality, often prevent us from admitting to be wrong and learn from our mistakes. Or even more shameful, to be influenced or manipulated. And too proud to admit we do not dare to compare if others do not actually feel the same. What makes the third-person effect so mind-boggling is that we do not even benefit from pretending to be uninfluenced, but only from looking like we are. As social beings, we constantly check our environment, consciously or not, for what ideas and behavior we may hold appropriate. How will they look at me? And it is not about what these people actually think, but what I, from my subjective point of view, anticipate them to think. Turning the world your back and swimming against the current, or following the unspoken rules of society to a T might feel good, actually, in the very same way, but often it only feels good when others watch us perform. Otherwise, it only feels exhausting. And so we become ignorant to our own ignorance, and with open arms but a twisted mind, we welcome the elephant in the brain, never too shy for words to explain ourselves away in the most rational ways. Yet rationalization most of the time equals confabulation. Every story is good enough as long as it prevents me from second-guessing, resulting in a surprisingly sobering lesson. We do not learn from being right, only from being wrong. And if overconfidence is not punished, there is no need for second thoughts. Yet instead of growing more confident with more knowledge, more skill, or even just with age, what we should actually harness is healthy skepticism. Confidence is a feeling, self-awareness is a skill. The first step to free yourself of manipulation is to free yourself from ignorance and embrace the possibility to be wrong at any time, without losing the confidence to be right anytime as well. Be confident in being skeptic, be skeptic of being a believer. Be aware that the third person effect in a broader sense means everyone. And when we refer to everyone, we tend to call it society. And when we call upon society, we revert to common sense. But common sense is not necessarily sensible, it is just common. Like confidence, it only feels right. And that is one habit we must break. Since getting things right and being self-aware is not common, but exceptional.